Hi, folks. Here we are, one day before Valentine's Day, a day that fairly shouts love. Well, when we're looking at Friday Focus, where we do not focus on what is seen but on what is unseen, we take a look at Psalm 84. I call it Love That Longs. As a kid in school, do you remember Valentine's Day? I sure do. It was both fun and scary at the same time. Yeah, it was fun when you gave and received a Valentine. But I found it quite fearful because I wondered if I'd even get one. Now that I'm grown, I see things a little differently. Valentine's Day has a way of reminding us how deeply wired we are for love. For some, it's a joyful reminder of companionship and affection. For others, it quietly highlights loss, loneliness, or longing. Love has a way of uncovering what truly matters to us. Why? Well, because what we love is what we think about, pursue, and miss when it's absent. And Psalm 84 is a great Valentine's Day psalm about love. Not romantic love. Something other. A deeper affection that reaches beyond circumstances and settles firmly in the presence of God. Written by the sons of Korah, this psalm reads less like a lesson and more like a longing heart poured out on a page. It's the voice of someone who has discovered that being near God is better than anything else life can offer. And so we want to take a little deeper look, little deeper dive, and see what Psalm 84 has to say about love, the kind of love that is part of a relationship with the Lord and his relationship with you. We take a look at how lovely. That's how the psalmist starts in verse 1. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of heaven's armies. The psalmist begins with admiration. This is not the language of routine religion or obligation. It's the language of affection. What makes God's dwelling place lovely is not the structure itself, but the presence of the Lord. And I think the author confirms this when he writes, I long, yes, I faint with longing to enter the courts of the Lord. With my whole being, body and soul, I will shout joyfully to the living God. Verse 2. There's nothing casual about this desire. The longing is so strong that it affects both body and soul. And the psalmist is not satisfied with knowing about God. He wants to know him. He wants to be near him. He wants access. He wants his presence. Even the smallest details stir his heart, and you can easily see that in verses 3 and 4 when he writes, even the sparrow finds a home and the swallow builds her nest and raises her young at a place near your altar, O Lord of heaven's armies, my King and my God. Verse 3. You see, to the psalmist, the birds seem blessed simply because they are close. That's what love does. It notices proximity and calls it happiness. Verse 4 goes on to say, what joy for those who can live in your house, always singing your praises. When joy flows naturally from nearness, praise becomes a response rather than a requirement. And so the psalmist goes on in verses 5 through 7 as he talks about strength for the journey. You see, love not only draws us toward God, but it also strengthens us along the way. And it's seen from verse 5 when we read it. It says, what joy for those whose strength comes from the Lord, who have set their minds on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. The walk of faith isn't always easy. Following God involves movement, effort, and perseverance. Check out the psalmist's perspective as he continues to write in verse 6. He says, When they walk through the valley of weeping, it'll become a place of refreshing springs. It would appear that the valley of weeping suggests sorrow, dryness, and hardship. Yet, for those whose hearts are set on God, even that place becomes a source of refining, renewal, and resolve. The valley doesn't disappear, but it is transformed. Notice where the psalmist goes with this. He continues in verse 7 saying, they will continue to grow stronger, and each of them will appear before God in Jerusalem. It's the Lord's love that sustains us, keeping us moving forward when circumstances would otherwise cause us to stop or possibly even move backwards. Continuing in verses 8 and 9, the psalmist records a prayer from the heart. Heartfelt prayer is productive. Here's what the prophet Jeremiah had to say about it. He says, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13. The psalmist recognizes this. Look at this verse. It's verse 8 of our psalm for today. O Lord God of heaven's armies, hear my prayer. Listen, O God of Jacob. Love brings confidence. The psalmist speaks honestly and directly, knowing that God is listening. He says, O God, look with favor upon the king, our shield. Show favor to the one you have anointed. Verse 9. His trust doesn't rest in himself, but in God's protection and provision. In verse 10, he says, just one day like that is enough. Yeah, this is what he writes. A single day in your courts is better than 1,000 anywhere else. Wow. Have you ever felt like that? One day in the presence of God is better than 1,000 days anywhere else. Love clarifies priorities. One day in God's presence outweighs a lifetime spent anywhere else. And this is what he writes in verse 10, I would rather be a gatekeeper in the house of my God than live the good life in the homes of the wicked. The author chooses presence over position and closeness over comfort. Love always reshapes what matters most. And then he comes to verses 11 and 12. What does he talk about there? Well, he's talking about a God who holds nothing back. Look at verse 11. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory. Do you feel like that? God provides light when we are lost and protection when we are vulnerable. The Lord will withhold no good thing from those who do what is right, verse 11 says. That doesn't mean life will be easy. Rather, it means God is faithful. And in verse 12, O Lord of heaven's armies, what joy for those who trust in you. And only someone who has spent time trusting in the Lord understands that verse. The rest of us need to take it by faith. So, what about Valentine's Day? Well, here's some final thoughts, I guess, as I close Psalm 84. As Valentine's Day approaches, Psalm 84 gently redirects our hearts. Romantic love is a gift, but it was never meant to be our foundation. Human love can fade, fail, or disappoint, but the love found in God's presence never does. When we learn to long for Him, trust Him, and dwell with Him, we discover a love that satisfies the deepest places of the soul. May we be people who do not merely believe, but who long for Him, not merely attending, but adoring. What's the secret? Listen, love, walk. This is Dr. Vic Hollyfin. In His grace, if you have any comments or questions, you can address them to me at vicsfridayfocus@gmail.com. That's vicsfridayfocus@gmail.com. God bless you. let God do his work in your life. And Valentine's Day tomorrow, do something special for that particular someone in your life.